Welcome back to Maximum Lawyer Live. As those of you who are watching, you can see I'm working from home today. Those of you that are just listening, you can't see this, but this is on purpose for today's topic. This is a topic I'm not yet comfortable with employees hearing the conversation. Some of them do listen to the podcast, so I do understand that some of them will hear this. The ones that do listen probably will understand what I'm going to talk about a little bit. But so let me go back. When AI first sort of hit the scene, so we're like 2022. And I wouldn't even say it was really useful to law firms yet. It was just kind of we were getting into it. But I think the optimistic view was pretty simple. You automate the repetitive stuff, and then you just move employees into more higher value, human-centered roles. I think that to me, that meant more client communication, better follow-up with clients, more empathy that you don't really get with AI, more quality control in some aspects when it comes to the human touch part of things, more relationship building, and really you had fewer people doing like copy and paste data entry kind of thing. That was kind of my view on things. And I still think that's a good instinct to have. And like deep down, that's how I feel about things. Okay. So I want to make sure I'm going to give you my shift in perspective, but I also want to tell you, like, deep down, I still feel that. I still believe that. I really do. Or I want to believe it. I don't know. I don't know if I still do believe it, I guess is what I want to believe it, but I don't know if I still do believe it. And I think part of it has to do, my shift in perspective has to do with, we've had some just major advances in the firm with AI and technology over the last month. And it's getting better and it's getting better and it's getting better. It's not going to get worse. Okay. The AI is not going to get worse. And it all really kind of led to this conversation which I'll get to in a little. I'm not going to fully go into it, but with my conversation with Jason Selk about this and a few employees that we have. But like I said, I'll get to that in a little bit. But I do think that the client experience is usually where firms they win or they lose. The successful firms usually have a very good client experience. The clients leave happy and they turn into raving fans, and the ones that don't, that's where they don't get returning clients. And so I think that Clio, if you look at Clio, they like do that survey every year, and they've got some AI guidance notes that they pushed out. And I know that I understand a lot of it's a marketing thing that they send out, but I do some of it's worth looking into. But there is this part where we're showing the firms that are using AI, they're starting to see improved work quality. Now, there's been some disputes over that I've seen over the last few weeks, but what people are reporting, according to Clio, is improved work quality, better client responsiveness, increased work capacity, which it really supports that idea that automation can free people up for that higher value work. Okay, really does. So that's kind of the lay of the land. Okay, but let's talk about the conversation I had with Jason. So we were going through, and I'm just kind of stuck with this issue because we have basically three positions that have the work has not fully been automated, but it either is very close or it will be very soon. Where it will be replaced with automation and AI completely. Three complete positions. Like I could comfortably today replace those positions. Okay. which I don't think I expected it to happen to this point. But 3 positions, right, boom, done, gone right off the bat. I mean, I think that's pretty significant, and that's not even including, like, all of the other work that has been reduced. The workload for people has been reduced over the last 3 years, 4 years at this point. And, we have done our best to shift all of those things to more, okay, client communication, communication, which has been effective, but there's always a but, right? With this, there's a couple things with this, right? There's only so much of that client communication we can do. There's that part of it. There's the other part where not all employees that you bring on for a certain role are built for the client handholding element of things. That outreach, the interpersonal skills that you need to build relationships with people. All of those things I talked about at the beginning. Not all of those employees are built for that, and that's where there's now this internal struggle, where I'm having this conversation with Jason. It was he just says flat out to me, he goes, "Is it a good decision to keep these people on if you don't need them?" And it's one of those things where I didn't really want to answer the question. I just didn't. It really kind of forced me to confront something I didn't want to. I had to separate the whole, I had like basically being a business owner from like loyalty and guilt. Um, I guess a little bit of fear, like looking them in the eyes and, replacing them, like saying, hey, like obviously I'm not gonna say that they're being replaced, but I mean, they're being fired. I think they kind of see the writing on the wall. But I have to separate that from being a business owner. And that is a really it sucks. Like this job, the owner part of things sucks sometimes. It really does, because that's a really tough call that I don't want to make. But I answered the question because he asked me, is it a good business decision to keep these people on? And the honest answer is no. The honest answer, if we're being honest with ourselves, is that no, it's not a good business decision to keep these people on. Now I could make some arguments as to why it could be a good business decision to keep them on, but only if they apply to certain people. Like if a person was really good about bringing in business, okay, well, great, I could shift that role. But if the person doesn't have those interpersonal skills, then, and if they're not bringing in clients, then yeah, it's not a good business decision to keep them on. And for these 3 individuals that I'm thinking about, it's not. I'm gonna say 3 positions. These 3 positions, it's not a good idea to have a human in those seats. It's just really not. Um, and I don't think it's a great business decision to keep them on. And this is, now you might be able to know, now you can probably tell why I don't want to have this conversation in the office, because it's a really tough one. And I'm not even sure I'm comfortable with Becca releasing this step to the public. This may just stay in the association. It's just one of these frank conversations I think it's important that we have right now, because the reality is we are all going to start facing these decisions pretty quickly. And who knows? I feel like I'm ahead of the curve when it comes to AI. Maybe I'm behind. Maybe you all have already been having these conversations, but based on the conversations I've been having with people, that's not what I've been hearing. I've been hearing a different conversation. I've been hearing kind of the same thing as I've been saying. Like, hey, let's shift these to let's not be ruthless assholes, and let's shift these to people to positions that can really be helpful in the firm. But if they don't, if there's really no place for them, what's the right move? The right move is for you to help them find another position elsewhere. By doing that, you have to start that process by usually letting them go. And if you feel super guilty, which that's something I feel super guilty about it. It's because like part of it is like I'm not gonna say we, but I know that a lot of you are in the same position where I am creating the environment that's replacing them. Like we are being intentional about it and the whole goal was not to replace people. I've said that from the beginning. It was not. It was not to replace people. But I'm also very conscious of the whole idea that I'm creating the environment that's replacing the people, which I don't like. I just don't like that idea. And it was it was tough talking through this with Jason. But the reality is he cut right through it, right? That's what he's great about. He asked very tough questions of me, and I've got to make really tough decisions. There I guess there's a difference between being loyal to people and being trapped by sentimentality. Um, I think loyalty means you're honest with people, right? Which I think we should be. We've got to be honest with our people. Um, it means you have to give them clarity. Okay? You have to give them clarity. Um, it means that you train them where training makes sense. It means you give them a real shot at the future of the firm. I think that that's loyalty. But loyalty does not mean creating pretend work to avoid an uncomfortable conversation. I mean, I think that's the reality that we've got to come to. And sometimes what we do is we use loyalty as like this blanket to shield us, when in reality, um, loyalty is something else. Like we're only using that blanket, that loyalty blanket, to avoid making those tough decisions. I think that's what we do sometimes. So let me just kind of um, ask you this. All right. So let me kind of ask you a tough conversation. A tough question. Who on your team is there because the firm truly needs the role, and who is there because you have been avoiding the decision? And um, this could be for a variety of reasons. It doesn't have to be AI. It could be for other reasons too. But I'm guessing that if you will ask yourselves that question, um, who's there because the firm truly needs the role, and who's there because you've been avoiding making that decision? That is that's a question that's probably gonna hit a lot of you home, and you're gonna probably come up with a few names. I'm guessing. And I think once you admit to that part of it, the next question really becomes even harder. Um, what's your actual obligation at that point? Okay. What is your actual obligation? And you can get into the whole what should you do, what shouldn't you do kind of a scenario. But I think if you do that, you're just forcing yourself to avoid that um, that big decision. Um, I guess just to kind of give you all a little bit of comfort, I don't think that the job of the owner, so the law firm owner, is to preserve every job forever. There is, if you look back, I mean, I talked about this at Max LawCon. There are over the last several decades. I mean, we've seen the invention of the paralegal. We've seen the invention of the typewriter and of the computer, and there's been all these fears about um, how that could affect jobs. And so we're not the first ones to have to make these decisions. Now we might be the first ones to have to make a lot more decisions when it comes to whether or not people are needed, because this is, I think, one of the first times we've seen entire jobs being replaced. And which, so it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be maybe a little bit tougher, but I don't think our job is to preserve every job, every position forever. I've never believed that. I really don't. And I really haven't. But And that's, I guess, just because that's how business works, right? We've got to evolve. The firm has to evolve. Positions evolve. Positions have changed since I've owned my firm. Or there's the 3 iterations of my firm. It was my first firm, the partnership, and then after the partnership, right? I've had the 3 iterations of it. We've changed the roles several times because it had to shift to the way we work, and that's the same way AI is working, right? Um, Ultimately, your goal is you've got to be a firm that serves clients well. Period. You've got to be a firm that serves clients well. Whether that takes 20 employees or 5 employees, doesn't matter, as long as you can serve them well. If you are broke because you have too many employees, well, that's a problem. Okay. The best firms are probably the ones that are highly profitable firms that are able to take care of their clients really, really well. Like those are, because you're going to be much happier as a profitable firm than you are as an unprofitable firm. You just are. Okay. I've had my up years and I've had my down years. The up years are way better than the down years. I think a lot of you have had that same sort of feeling. Okay. The good years are way better than the bad years. And we all have both. That's just part of business. Okay. AI has really created an opportunity for us. But part of the opportunity is we are going to have to make a lot of tough decisions over the next several years. We just are. Okay. But I think a firm that keeps the unnecessary roles is eventually going to become weaker, and that weakness is going to start showing up in lower margins, slower decision making, um, less money for top performers, which is you're going to start losing your top performers because you're going to have less money to pay them. You're going to have less money for marketing, less investment in systems or in buildings or whatever else you need to invest in. And so you're going to have more pressure on you without making these really tough decisions. So there is a hidden moral problem in keeping unneeded people too long. Okay. It can hurt the people who are needed. Okay. And I'm guessing most of you haven't thought about that. I hadn't until I was forced to think about this. The high performers are the ones that carry the weight. The clients get less responsiveness because of that. The owner gets more stressed. So you as the owner get more stressed. And then your law firm is going to lose momentum. So there is if you want to look about it, if you're worried about this being a moral problem, letting go of people, it's also a moral problem of keeping those people. It really is. Um, Profit, it's really, really important. I think we've had too much propaganda about this. Profit is not greed. It is not. Profit is oxygen for your firm. Okay. Let me say that again. Profit is not greed. If you're worried about, oh, that's greedy. No, 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 no. Profit is oxygen for your firm. It is not greed. Okay. Profit's going to allow the firm to hire better people, to pay well, right? To pay a really good salary to people who can actually live and survive and provide for their families. Okay. It's going to allow you to invest more in technology for the firm. It's going to allow you to take better cases, withstand downturns, and serve clients with less desperation. You're not going to have to take every single client that comes to the door. So that means you're going to be able to spend more time on the clients that you really want to work with. Okay. So ultimately you have to decide are you protecting your team or are you protecting your discomfort? That's what it really comes down to. All right. That's all I'm going to go into. There's more I was going to think about going to, but I think I've got enough here that I've covered. So that's all I have for this week. Make sure you get your tickets to MaxLawCon. Go to maxlawcon.com. Window will be closing soon, so make sure you get those. Go to beccaslist.co to check out vendors that you are interested in to see if they are any good. So it could be AI companies, it could be an SEO company, whatever it may be. We've got them there on beccaslist.co. And if you see something or there's not something on there that you want, just submit a request and we'll add them to the site. And then if you're interested in the association, if you're listening to this, again, I don't know if this is going to be a public one. I'll have to make the decision after today. I'm gonna have to re-listen to it and see how much it might piss off some of my employees. But if you are listening, if I did release this out to the public and you're interested in the association, go to MaximumLawyer.com. All right, everybody, take care. Thanks for listening, and go make those really tough decisions. See you, everybody.